Come now and let us reason together. What's up, everyone? How are we doing? It has been a long week, and we have one more day left. It is Friday Eve, as Stephen Brown so gloriously calls it. How's everyone doing? Hokies, MASH, how are y'all? Marianne, hope everyone is doing well. Stephen, I hope you're doing well, man. Who's ready for Legally Speaking number 15? Obviously, a lot to talk about, a lot that we've all probably had our own thoughts about, and it's not necessarily going to be an extremely legally speaking one tonight. I think it's going to be a lot of things going to look a little more like Welcome to the Rebellion. Not that that's a good or a bad thing, just the fact of the matter. There's a lot more to discuss rather than analyze legally. And sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. What's up, Drunk 3PO? How you doing, man? Look at that beautiful wrench next to your name. No, I don't fall off the ship. Never. So let's see. The first thing, I saw this earlier, and honestly, it gave me a really good chuckle. That Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, very much believed to be the new leader of the Democratic Party, says that MAGA voters are coming up to her saying, oh, man, I wish I could be a Democrat socialist. Jay, we are, let's see, I just checked. We're at 418 subscribers, and we need about 1,000 watch hours. So we need 1,000 watch hours and 82 subscribers. So the goal is end of the year. I've got, I'm not going to laze around like I was. We're going to actually, kick butt, hit those videos, hopefully hit a couple that are, pretty big. I have a belief that there's some pretty big things getting ready to happen. So hopefully there'll be some popular things. And, yeah. And of course, sticking the live stream playlist on in the background, just listening to me rant for 8.5 hours a day, that'll help at all. So, but yeah, I think this is ridiculous. First off, to suggest that AOC is going anywhere that MAGA voters are in mass is ridiculous. MAGA voters aren't going to these Bernie Sanders and AOC events. That's just not happening. They're going to Lindsey Graham events because for some reason they won't kick him out of office. But that's on me. That's my job to get him out of office because I live in his state. So let's get him out of office here. This upcoming election. That'd be great. Yeah, and I mean, Hokie, you're absolutely right. Her only support is in her own district for the most part. And that's what's so pathetic is because people forget, I brought this up on different streams. I think I was talking about it on Jay's stream. It was election night last Tuesday, where she killed a deal that with Amazon that would have gotten her constituents thousands of jobs, millions of dollars in tax revenue, and she killed it because Amazon wouldn't go pro-union. And it's like you are supposed to do what's best for your constituents, not what's best for the 30,000 Amazon workers in California. You're supposed to do what's best for your constituents. And I think back to what what was his name? GA Rep to Continental forget, it wasn't Witherspoon. He was New Jersey. I think it was Lyman Hall. So Lyman Hall was a representative of Georgia to the Continental Congress, the Second Continental Congress, and he's sitting there kind of talking about what his job as a representative is. And he said, I have found that it is my job as a representative that when the people that I represent are unsure, that I should submit my opinion for theirs until they become sure. And which is what he did. He voted against independence in the first vote, but voted with everyone else when it became clear from both his own belief and the belief of the people of Georgia that it was time to separate from the mother country. And what's annoying is you got all of these representatives, and this is not just stuck on one side of the aisle. This is Republicans and Democrats, independents. This is everyone does it, where they think about what's good for their party or good for themselves. That's not what the representatives are supposed to do. Party, you could argue that the senators were supposed to consider what's good for the party. Maybe that kind of devolved out of what their original job was. But far and away, I think one of the worst things that we ever did was passing the 26th Amendment, which made senators elected by the people. Senators were never supposed to be elected by the people because they're there too long. Yo, Casey, I appreciate that. Excuse me. Yeah, it's really infuriating when stuff like this happens, because as much as I want to disagree with Jason here, as much as I want to be like, look, there are obviously varying differences, and obviously there are people that believe in 8% of this, 20% of that, or 30% of this, 6%, 70% of that. Nothing changes. So the more people like me sit there and say, well, what about this? The more we look insane. I hope that made some sense. Y'all want to know what's this? Hang on one second. Sorry, football thing popped up. I love this, and we don't need to dwell on it, but I think this is absolutely hilarious that the Democrats just don't understand anything. I don't think this is the win they think it is. I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, Jeffrey Epstein in 2017 on Donald Trump. How do I say this on YouTube? If the Adobe software thing thinks you're a bad person, maybe you're not. Like, I'm not going to say Donald Trump's the salt of the earth. But if Epstein thinks he's a bad person, maybe he's not a bad person. Like, that they're trying to post this and be like, look, the bad person thinks he's even worse than him. But again, the thing they put out today, they don't learn. The Democratic Party is about to get sued by Donald Trump for defamation, because they just released an email that we've all already seen with trying to act like Guthrie is saying that Donald Trump is complicit in this. Again, I'm trying to pick my words very carefully. When she's already testified under oath before Congress that he was not involved. Exactly, Hokies. Exactly. The DNC is already freaking broke. Do they really think that they're going to be able to survive a defamation claim from Donald Trump? Like that is that. So this is what's so funny. They're sitting there looking at everything as if Donald Trump is not a normal person. So when it comes to defamation, if you're a normal person, you could argue I no longer fit this description because I have put myself out here on the internet. But for a normal person, all you have to do is prove that the lie was published. Usually it's a newspaper, but you just have to prove that the lie was published and that it harmed your reputation. For a public person, you have to prove that it was published with actual malice, which is basically malice aforethought, that the person knew it was a lie and that they wanted to hurt your reputation. Duh. Like that's exactly what we have here. You've got the Democratic Party making posts, covering up information, redacting information so that it looks worse than it actually is to imply a connection. And when the person that they're talking about has already testified under oath that there is no connection. I like what Jason says here, but remember the Democrats are at the pounding the table stage of their temper tantrum. Absolutely. Now, that's not to say that Donald Trump has problems. One of his big problems was the other night when he said that we don't have skilled people here in America. Now, I am of the belief that one of the things that happened was, and let me see if I have it on Discord because I sent it to somebody. Okay, it was Eric Daugherty. Okay, so Fox News ran a report. I know you're going to say Fox News, but calm down for a second. Fox News ran a report the other day. God, this dude posts so much stuff. I want to share it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to find it. So that from Will Kane, I guess he's a new guy on Fox News. 70% of H1B visa holders come from India, another 10 to 15% from China. 80% of H1B visas are for entry and junior level jobs. Now, knowing what we know about the way that Donald Trump handles information and kind of reports on that information, I am of the belief, and this is probably partly cope, that I'm of the belief that Donald Trump gets this report that says, most H1B visas are here for entry-level jobs and takes that to mean that company, Microsoft, Little Caesars, 7-Eleven, whatever, couldn't find an American qualified for this job. Because after all, that's what the H-1B visa is supposed to be for. That you're applying for this visa because you haven't been able to fill the position here in the homeland. So I'm of the belief that he sees this data and says, okay, well, that means that they're not here. The people that these companies need aren't here in the United States. And then he goes home, goes back to the White House, and they go, whoa, that's not what that report says at all, Don. Like, Don, that's not what it says. Come on, man. And then Scott or who's the other guy? Who's the HUD dude? I forgot his name. He's been in the news today. Let's see if I find it. Sec of HUD. Scott Turner. So Scott Turner was talking about it earlier today that the best way, and I'll get into affordability as well. But I guarantee you, he got home, he got back to the White House, and Scott, what's his name, the Secretary of the Treasury, and Scott Turner got him in a room and were like, dude, that's not what these numbers mean at all. And what I meant to do, and I didn't do it, and if anyone did, please let me know in the chat. I meant to watch Caroline Leavitt's press conference the next day, because I'll bet you that they walked that back a lot. Unfortunately, I have been kind of out of it on Twitter. I've been really busy with work, so I haven't been able to pay nearly as much attention to what she was saying and what they were talking about after Tuesday, which is when that interview was. But that's my guess. I think they've probably walked that back. And it seems like what we see, Trump likes to kind of throw stuff out there. We've seen this a lot. We saw it earlier at the beginning of the administration with the first time the H1B visa stuff came up. Trump likes to throw stuff out there and see what sticks and see what the feel is. Because I think he believes, and I don't think he's entirely wrong about this, but I think he believes that the best way to figure out whether or not the people are in favor of something for him to do is to take a position and then watch what the country does. If the country says, no, that's not right, like it seems that they're doing with this H1B visa stuff, then he sends someone out to correct it, which we seem to be seeing with the interview from JD Vance earlier this afternoon, where he's talking about the main decision, or the main point for. Hang on a second, guys. Sorry, work just texted me. What was it saying? See, what Jay would do right now is he would just repeat the same thing over and over until you got back on track. Yeah, so Trump throws this thing out there, and then when he finds out that it's unpopular, we get today the interview with Fox News with JD Vance, basically telling everyone, okay, the focus point of the administration for the next year is affordability. We're going to kick out all the illegals. And then Scott Turner sits there and says, okay, one of the best ways to get housing under control is to stop with these H1B visas and to kick out the illegals. The fact of the matter is there's three things, but we don't even have to address boomers and their houses. And honestly, we almost don't even have to address BlackRock and their houses. There's literally three things that probably overnight 20 to 30% decrease in houses, affordability of houses. And it's kick out the illegals, stop with this H1B visa crap, floating the FHA program, and allow for movability of interest rates. Those three things, and affordability changes probably 20 to 30% overnight. Those are the three things. And like I said in my video earlier today, I like the idea of 50-year mortgages. First off, no one pays off their mortgage. It is incredibly rare to pay off your mortgage. What you do most of the time is, you live somewhere for about 10 years, 10, 15 years, say you pay your mortgage, you pay, half your mortgage down, a third of your mortgage down, then you take your equity and you go put that in another house. You move. That's what the vast majority of mortgage holders do. Now, the problem with the 50-year thing is you're going to end up with people who are just stupid. But there's supposed to be a catch-all for that. And it's supposed to be the realtor. The realtor is supposed to advise the buyer to what they need and what they should do. Part of that is saying, hey, I think you should probably go with this lender. Now, realtors are not allowed, it's the same as lenders, they're not allowed to tell buyers what to do, but they can advise them. If a realtor says, you know what, I haven't had very good experience with that attorney's office or that lender, I don't think I would go with that, but it is their decision. But there's still, it's sort of like the advice and consent of the Senate. They're supposed to advise the president. There's realtors are supposed to advise buyers. The problem is we have too many realtors today that consider the buyer all that they're good for is a commission check, and that's the big problem with that shit. Is you have the same problem with the court system. You've got too many judges who refuse to enforce. Here in South Carolina, we call it Rule 11. Other states, they call it, New Jersey calls it like Rule 573C or something like that. You got too many industries that all anyone cares about in them are money and not the people. Yes, Hokie, you are absolutely right. If you pay the entirety of a 50-year mortgage, but you don't, no one does that. So, and the other thing, think about the people that they pay 10 years into a 30-year mortgage, then they refinance. Well, now it's a 40-year mortgage, and then they pay another 10, and then they refinance. Now it's a 50-year mortgage. Then they pay 20 years, and now they refinance. Then it's a 70-year mortgage. So there are several reasons to be against this, but there's also some really good reasons for it. Do I think that the corporations owning single-family homes are using algorithms to game the market? Sure, of course. I mean, I would not be surprised at all. But I don't think you necessarily need algorithms to know where the popular places to live are and what places are booming, what places aren't booming. Like right now, if I was going to tell anyone to start investing in property, I would tell them, I would start targeting blue states. They're seeing a mass exodus of people out of their state. Property values are going to go down. Now, you're going to find in some places like San Francisco, LA, parts of LA, that they stay high or get even higher because they're going to try to, unbalance the system. But you're going to have plenty of places all across California where the property price is going to go down because people don't want to live there. There are areas here in South Carolina that people don't want to live. So the house that should probably be $210,000 is selling for $170,000. So the government has a say in loans that you make using government programs like FHA, VA, USDA. They have a say in that because they have set up that program. But they don't necessarily have a say in your normal conventional loan. Like I made a loan to pay off the apartment that I had in Charleston when I was living there. Because I don't want to pay two apartments over the last 2 or 3 months of the lease. Government doesn't have a single say in that. Now they can tell that other lender, hey, you're not allowed to charge 80% interest, but that's it. That's the only say that the government has in that. I also need to stop saying so much. But yeah, cut the importing of H1B visas that no one needs. There are probably one of the things that we've all taken standardized testing. We all know that if the answer says all always, that the answer is wrong. So the statement, all H1B visas are bad, is wrong. It just is. Okay? There's no way that you won't find a single H1B visa holder that is a net positive. Not possible. It's mathematically impossible. But the statement, most H1B visa holders are a net negative, it's probably true. We don't need so many people coming into this country. You're going to tell me that we can't find an American to watch the cash register? Like, I know we can because there's one at the gas station 3 miles away from me. There's one at the gas station over there, 5 miles, 2 miles. They're all American. Their last name is not Patel. Now, the gas station 2 miles away from me sure is. But that's the thing that's annoying, is you've got so much of the infrastructure of this country owned by citizens of other nations. That sounds bad to me. Am I wrong? Yes. Yes. Okay, look, here's the deal. Would I like to work in a gas station? No. No, I would not. Have I ever thought I'm better than that? Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I haven't. Have I outgrown that thought? I think so. I think I'm old enough to realize that a job is a job, and as long as you're contributing to society and keep helping yourself and keeping your family, fed and stuff like that, that you are doing a good thing. I think I'm old enough to figure that out by now. I'm not going to say that I don't walk, into a gas station and be like, wow, I'm so grateful I don't have to work here every day of the fucking week. There, but for the grace of God, go on. I am incredibly lucky. I would say every single person in this chat, everyone all over the country that doesn't have to do some of these jobs that we wish or that we're glad we don't have to do, is incredibly lucky. But to sit there and say that it's not a good job because it's in a gas station, or that it's not a good job because it's plumbing, or that's not a good job because it's a blue collar, it's bullshit, and it's the biggest crock of shit we were fed as kids. I will never say a bad thing about my mother, but the thing that I have now realized is the biggest failure of her generation, and my father's generation, and our parents' generation, is that, like Hokie says, in order to get a good job, you have to go to college. That's a lie. It's an absolute lie. Now, I'm incredibly lucky that I got out of college without any debt. My dad paid for college. All I had to do was maintain my scholarship, which literally was get B's and maybe a C or two. That's all I had to do. Now, I was an A-B student, but that's all I had to do. But there are people working blue-collar jobs right now that make more money than any of us. And the reason, it is my belief that the reason that schools no longer, for the most part, have shop class or the car mechanic classes, or even freaking home ec, is so that we don't know. I'm going to kind of speak out of turn here because I'm partially wrong about this, how easy those jobs are. Because while 20, to 30% of the stuff that you do as a, I don't know, mechanic can be difficult. How many mechanics do we know that spend most of their time changing oil, changing out the air filter, changing brakes? Those things aren't hard. It's not hard to change disc brakes. It's just not. I don't do it because, so the reason I always have someone else do my brakes, I know how to, but I also know myself. And I know that's the one thing you really want to work in your car. Like, I've gone without AC. I can do it again. But you need your brakes. So that's why I don't want to touch them. Because I know how to do it, but I'm going to let the guy that gets paid to do it. Are we enjoying my TED Talk? But yeah, look, I got a buddy of mine that's a crane operator. He's going to make more money than me for the next 4 or 5 years. Eventually, I'll catch up, and I'll be happy and grateful to have caught up. But I went to school for 7 years. He went to a class for, I'm going to guess, 10 and a half weeks. And he's making more money than me. I'm not angry about it. I'm not upset or jealous or anything. Maybe a little jealous. But good on him. He didn't have to go get a degree to do it. He didn't have to go get $200,000 in debt to do it. I'm not $200,000 in debt. But he didn't have to go do that. So, and that's the thing that I think more people should be taught. I think more of these tech schools, more of these blue collar schools need to start getting into these high schools and saying, hey, look, we're going to sponsor this mechanic class. O'Reilly needs to be going into these high schools and saying, you know what, we're going to bring 3 cars that need to get fixed. Where they're going to have brake issues and electrical issues, and the back fender needs to be replaced. We're going to bring these into the schools, and we're going to teach y'all how to do it. And maybe we're going to find 2 or 3 of y'all that are going to be interested in this stuff and want to do it. Like, that's what needs to be happening. And we could easily do that by getting some private companies to sponsor these things. We see it all the time at football fields. How many times in baseball fields, how many times do you go to a sporting event in high school and you look out at the stadium or the football field or whatever and see sponsors? A lawyer's office here, a real estate firm here, I don't know who else sponsors stuff. A PT doctor's office here. Well, you see it all the time. So instead of just doing that, how about say, hey, Advanced Auto Parts, why don't you bring in a couple vehicles and help teach the next generation? Because what we're going to end up having throughout industry, throughout blue collar industry, and we're seeing it already, what you're going to end up having throughout blue collar industry is the people that know everything are going to retire. And they're not going to be there to teach the people that don't know everything. And so you're going to end up with about 15 years of just shit being done. And absolutely, you are completely correct, Jared. Mike Rowe has been beating the skilled trades instead of college drum for years. Absolutely. Dirty Jobs, one of the most watched television shows on television in 2010. Beautiful job. I love that show. I wish it was still going. I think he's got like a YouTube thing he does now. But absolutely. Go learn how to, and the other great thing is when you that's what you do, you don't have to pay someone else to do it. Like, if I did brakes for a living, then I would be completely comfortable doing them. But that's not what I do. It's the same thing as, like, you don't write wills for a living, so you're not as comfortable doing that as I am. What's up, Lean Back? I think I've missed some other hellos. I just want to say hello, guys. Thank y'all so much for being here. This is what the wall is for. Yep. We're seeing that. We're seeing what I was just talking about across industries all over the country. We're seeing it in the armed forces, where you've got people that, you know, the first leaders of GWAT, and I'm going to quote a friend of mine because I don't actually have firsthand knowledge on this, so this is not my exact opinion here. But you had the original leaders of GWAT. Everything they knew was from like Vietnam, and it didn't really work in GWAT, which is the Global War on Terror. And so now you've got all the people retiring that have gone through 20 years of war. They've learned all this stuff, but they're no longer there to pass it on. Now they've shared this stuff with some other people, but they don't know all of it. And what I'll use as an example is, let's say, I'll use my own experience for example. The attorney that I first worked for knew probably everything about his field. He could probably sit down, listen to a complaint, and go, "This is going to be about $25,000. We're going to spend about 7 hours or 15 hours on it. We're going to do these two things, and then we're going to be done. That's all we're going to have to do." And almost every time he'd be right. Then he tries to teach me that, but what I don't know how to be taught that. I don't know how to go in there and be like, okay, here's the 7 things I don't know how to do this one thing. Teach me it. Now, he also doesn't have the time to do that, even though he told me he would. And so, he's got all this knowledge that isn't going to be able to be passed on unless he gets people in the door to teach. Now, some people don't make good teachers. I happen to think he doesn't make a very good teacher. My current boss is a much better teacher. But yeah, market reality is completely correct. The majority of electricians start out by going on the job training. Is that what OJT means? Now, vocational degree, the fact that electrician has to pay. Yeah. Now, look, no shade on the fat electrician. I like a lot of the stuff I see. The one thing I don't like is when he takes historical events and dumbs them down and removes the nuance. That annoys me. But that's just me. He sent out a tweet the other day. I think it was the other day, or it was a screenshot that I saw, describing the battle of John Paul Jones between the Bonhomme Richard and the Counts of Scarborough and HMS Serapis. And he talks about it in the same way that he does in his videos. And I'm just like, man, you've missed so much stuff in this description. Everything that makes that battle cool, you have glazed over. And you've added dumb stuff to it. He wasn't wrong in the end, but it's still, there's a lot of stuff he missed on it. Now, he doesn't do that a lot. He's very good. I really like listening to the stuff that I watch of his, but sometimes I don't like it, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But we're allowed to disagree. It's fucking America. Okay. I'm sure okay, I want to talk about this. So we've all seen this report. A federal judge is preparing to order potentially thousands of illegals detained by ICE during Operation Blitz in Chicago released back onto the streets. Who's angry about this? Let's just all go ahead and raise our hand. Who thinks the judge is to blame? Everyone, raise your hand. You're wrong. He's not. It's not his fault. It's not this judge's fault. He is compelled to do this. There's a settlement. And one of the things, this is why you need to read everything. Because I don't know if it's in this. Here we go. It is actually. This guy. Wait, let me make sure this is the one. Yes. So this, there are two settlements covering the city of Chicago right now, federal settlements. One of them is this one that this guy is talking about. And it's basically says the Chicago Police Department doesn't have to aid federal law enforcement in immigration related stuff. That's basically what it says. This is not the one that the illegals are being released under. Yet 9.6 thousand views. This is wrong as well. But there was a settlement reached in 2019, I think, that basically goes to basically says that there are certain ways that ICE has to deal with Chicago. One of them is that you cannot do fly-by arrests. So one of the ways that ICE operates in certain cities is I'm just going to use I'm going to simplify this, okay? This is not exactly correct, but it gets me to my point. They use oh shit, what's it called? It's not stereotyping. Profiling. They use profiling. They do and they don't. Everyone uses it. But they have warrants that they can fill out in the field to basically say, this is my probable cause. This is who got arrested. This is why I arrested them. Sign here to say that I can continue the arrest. And that's basically what they do. They drop off a stack of those at the federal courthouse every day. The settlement says in the city of Chicago, you are not allowed to use those filled out arrest warrants. You have to have an arrest warrant signed by a judge that says, I am going to go arrest Abrego Garcia. Not, hey, I was walking down the road and I saw a guy that kind of looked like Abrego Garcia, so I asked him and I found out he's illegal. That's not what is allowed in the city of Chicago. Again, this is all because of a settlement that was reached under the first Trump administration, okay? This is not, in this case, this is not some grand uniparty globalist conspiracy, okay? In this case, there's a federal settlement between the city of Chicago and the United States that said that police officers or ICE, DHS, CPD, all that, up until February of 2025 will adhere to these things. Now you may go, Caleb, it's November of 2025. A judge extended it because in January they refused to continue operating that way. If they had just waited, if Tom Homan, this is Homan and Noem fucked up. They messed up here. If they had just waited another 3 weeks to start doing anything in Chicago, they would have gotten away with it. I say away with it. Honestly, I feel like they ought to be able to just sit there and say, illegal, trumps everything. We got them, they're out. And they probably should have. They probably should have just expedited everything and got them out. But now the good news is it's not 3,000. The list got capped at about 611. If you don't think that they're going to know where those people are at all times until they can get the probable cause to arrest them, then you're nuts. They might get out tomorrow. They're going to be back in jail in a week and a half. So I'm not that worried about it. They've already had 1,600 self-deport because they were afraid of getting picked up again. So it's not what we wanted, but it's better than it was. Yeah, so that's the thing that, I've given this example a lot of times where I was sitting there in law school and some girl that I was going to law school with posted that, so lean back. They reached a settlement to say, because see, look, here's the deal. At the end of the day, the city doesn't have to comply. The city can say, because we are a dual federal, I almost said monarchy. We are a dual federal republic, or not federal, dual federalism. I promise you, it's not unconstitutional. I promise. Cities can say, and cities can disagree, and in a lot of, I'm trying to think about how to word this. Probably should have done more homework for this. Let's see. I do have an explanation of. Here we go. So so there was, this all comes out of a class action. And the class action, I forgot to look up the class action itself. But it stems out of a lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security, where agents conducted warrantless arrests of over 150 people, many without probable cause, include, and this was the problem, okay? In 2018, when all this stuff happened, they arrested without cause United States citizens. And the U.S. courts will allow a lot of stuff. They really will. But the second you start grabbing United States citizens and depriving them of rights, it's a no-go. It is up there with when Paul told the Roman centurion that he was born a citizen of Rome. You remember how scared that guy got? This is worse. So that's why the settlement was reached. Now it's enforceable in the Northern District. In fact, there's a judge, and this is the judge that is in charge of enforcing it. What's this dude's name? I think it's a dude. Yeah, Jeffrey Cummings. So he extended it to February 2nd of this year after finding repeated violations, including 26 early 2025 cases. So ICE was ordered to reissue no, Corn Boy. There's actually a DOJ memo on file with the Department of Defense. I'm sorry, the Department of War, telling them that they are now allowed to bomb American citizens abroad because the Obama administration did it. That's why Rand Paul sat there for 22 and a half hours debating this on the Senate floor in 2015 14 when John Brennan was being nominated to be the director of the CIA. He got away with it, Corn Boy, because it had never been a issue before. The first person to do it always gets away with it. It's the second person that doesn't get away with it. See? Exactly. It's never a war crime the first time. That's the problem. It should have been, it should have been obvious, in 2014, but apparently it wasn't. Let's see. Ooh, what's this? Oh, hang on. All right, so I did a video earlier about this earlier this week. Um, of course, Sky News is the one reporting this. So remember that the BBC tried to air a documentary or a program, as they call it. I think it was over the weekend where they edited um, a clip of President Trump during January 6th, saying that they were going to walk to the Capitol building. He was going to lead them, and they were going to fight like hell, even though that's not what they said or what he said. So this is breaking news from Sky. Apparently, the BBC is so scared to get sued by Trump because, I mean, come on, even in lawless Britain, that's defamation.
This all started with the Panorama edit. I've just got this in. This is just breaking news, Emma, which relates to this story. We're just hearing that the BBC has apologised to Donald Trump over the editing of a speech which appeared on Panorama in 2024, adding it was an error of judgment.
Oh, so this was back in 24? Damn.
And the programme will not be broadcast again in this form on any BBC platform. So that's the BBC.
I need to see if I can find this BBC apology. Oh, I hope it's a video. Let's see. No, nothing that I see, which is too bad because it would be pretty fun to actually have that go through Discovery. Here we go. Maybe. That's about Comey. Here we go. Hey, here we go. The BBC apologizes to Trump over Panorama edit, but refuses to pay compensation. Ooh. The BBC has apologized to U.S. President Donald Trump for a Panorama episode that spliced parts of his 6th January. I hate the way they date things. But rejected his demands for compensation. The corporation said the edit had given the mistaken impression that President Trump had made a direct call for violent action and said that it would not show the 2024 program again. Also, why are we spelling program like this? That's so dumb. Lawyers for Trump have threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion in damages unless the corporation issues a retraction, apologizes, and compensates him. The fallout from the scandal led to the resignation of BBC Director General Tim Davie and head of news Deborah Turns on Sunday. So here's the apology. We accept that our edit unintentionally created the impression that we were showing a single continuous section of this speech rather than excerpts from different points in the speech, and that this gave the mistaken impression that President Trump has made a direct call for violent action. Lawyers for the BBC have written to President Trump's legal team in response to a letter received on Sunday. A BBC spokesperson said BBC Chair Sarah Shaw has separately sent a personal letter to the White House making clear to President Trump that he and the corporation are sorry for the edit of the president's speech on 6 January, which were featured in the program, they said. While the BBC sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited, we strongly disagree that there's a basis for a defamation claim. Let's look at this. Okay? Let's look at what clip they're talking about because I want y'all to see this. What's it called? Panorama? So this is from the episode. Okay, y'all tell me what you think, and let's be honest. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, buddy.
To the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell.
I don't see how anyone could watch this and think that's not one continuous speech. Look at how they cut this together. They sat there and they waited for the pauses so that they could actually make it look like one continuous message. And they're supposed to act like different frame rates and different camera angles make this look like different actual cuts.
And I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
And yet, here is the actual speech. The documentary clip featured lines taken from two sections of Trump's speech 55 minutes apart. How is anyone... Trump needs to just go ahead and sue them. File the lawsuit, sue them over there, because that's where they'd have to sue them. They'd have to sue them over there and not over here. And take those assholes to court. This is the... I assume this is the actual...
Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them.
And then 55 minutes later, he says we're going to fight like hell. Sean, so again, I don't know why I said that, but the reason that the reason the judge found the son not liable is because Johnny didn't prove his case. Hang on a second. There's so much stuff with Johnny. I'm trying to remember which one this was. Because there's three Johnny Depp lawsuits. One was here, and then there were two in the UK. One was against the son, and I forget who the other one was against. But in the son case, they found that so, Sean, I got no opinions on whether or not the judge should have recused himself or herself or not. I wasn't paying attention to it then. I paid more attention to the U.S. case because obviously I understood more about U.S. defamation law. But in the U.K., the son was able to prove, because UK defamation law is weird, the defendant has to prove their case, not, and that was a big thing that happened at the turn of the century, when David Irving took Deborah Lipstadt and Penguin Publishing to court and said that they defamed him by calling him a Holocaust denier. They had to prove their case, not David Irving, even though David Irving brought the lawsuit. But yeah, I mean, look, you're probably right. The BBC would probably be found not liable because they wouldn't be able to afford that payout because the BBC is already pretty bankrupt. And all that Disney money in the world isn't going to help them now that that contract's over. Dead air. Oh, that's cool. United States Catholic bishops have officially banned transgender treatments in thousands of Catholic-run hospitals. Yet you still confirmed that dude as a member of the Catholic Church. Make up your mind. Okay, what do we want to talk about now, guys? I know I'm sure y'all got a bunch of stuff you want to talk about. The affordability and the H1B stuff is all I really felt like talking about. Someone said earlier something about 80%. Where was that? Man, that was so long ago. Here we go. Yes, Cornboy said, I saw that 80% of H1B visa postings are for entry-level positions. Exactly. So, I mean, look, absolutely right. So, how you doing, Isaac? You're just here because I just liked a post of yours on Twitter. That's why you're here. Yeah, so you got 80%. Who was it that just announced that? It was Scott, wasn't it? Wasn't it the Secretary of the Treasury that just announced that 80% of H1B visas are here on entry-level positions? And that's, look, I've said this before. I don't think most people would be completely angry if we gave money to people and hired people from other countries if we weren't facing all these problems at home. If we could go and buy houses as much as we wanted, or sorry, I'm trying to make sure my lineups are set. I forgot it was Thursday night. If we could go buy all the houses that we want and people weren't having to decide between fucking insulin or filling up their car and driving to work and shit like that, then yeah, you want to give $20 million to this country and $20 million to that country to help with some bullshit, fine. But stop putting the fucking cart before the horse. Stop giving away all the money. If you sat there and said, hey, mortgage company, I know I owe you my mortgage, but my brother really wanted to get hair extensions, or my sister really wanted to get hair extensions, so I gave her my mortgage payment. They look at you like you were fucking nuts. So of course we are pissed off. Of course people are sick and tired of hearing about this money given to this country and this money given to this organization. It's so fucking annoying. Isaac's sitting there going, oh my God, say it harder. Okay, hang on. I definitely need to make sure something's wrong on this one. Oh shit. Okay, you're getting replaced by this guy for now. I just need to make sure I don't have any Thursday night games set. Nope. Greg Wilson's on IR. Douglas is definitely not starting tonight. Okay. That's the only league I care about, so we're good. So that's what's fucking annoying, Mark. Yes, that is a requirement. You have to not be able to fill the position with an American. That's what's so annoying about all of this. But what they're doing is they are listing, and I guarantee you why. If you go on any job board right now, you find basically every entry level position wants 3 to 4 years of experience, which no one in this country has, because the people with 3 to 4 years of experience are already the managers or have been in the job for 3 to 4 years now. So they're not going to be able to hire them for entry level. So, or they want too much. That's the other thing. You can sit there and say, we have to get, we need this H1B visa because no one will take the job. It doesn't have to be that no one's available. That's why they price these things. That's why, the listing for fucking the cashier at 7-Eleven, I'm going to call it 9-11, at 7-Eleven is for, $8.95 because no American's going to take $8.95. So they're able to sit there and get away with saying they need an H1B visa because they're not able to fill the job. But that's because they don't market it correctly and they price the salary at fucking third world wages. Exactly, Mark. Oh, are they challenging Humphrey's executor? Oh, hang on. I need to remind myself because I was talking about Humphrey's executor 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I actually forgot what it did. So 1 second. Un momento. Yes. Okay. Yes. So Humphrey's executor is the case that basically decides how far up the president can remove someone from their position, and how independent that agency is. So Humphrey's executor says, basically, if I'm wrong, correct me, but Humphrey's executor says if it's a truly independent agency and it's supposed to be independent, then the president can only fire for cause. Now, they're trying to use Humphrey's executor to say that he can't fire Lisa Cook, who's a governor of the Federal Reserve. Whereas he's trying to say, of course I can. She committed a felony. How can I not fire her? Am I right about that? Policy disagreements. Yeah, because Humphrey's executor said that a policy disagreement was not for cause, that you can't fire FTC commissioners, and now it would be Federal Reserve governors as well. And the Supreme Court held 9-0, which is going to be difficult to overturn, I'll be honest, guys. The court upheld the FTC's axe removal restrictions, ruling that Congress could limit the president's at-will dismissal powers for heads of independent agencies. Yes, he is. So this would be a good argument to make, that by creating a truly independent agency, you are in fact creating a fourth branch of government. The problem is, as I see it, is they are not creating a fourth branch of government. Simply saying they are adding to the executive branch. They are just limiting the power of the president to why they can fire these positions. The idea is that these agencies are seen as so important to the governance of the United States that simply a simple policy disagreement cannot be a reason to fire someone as long as they're doing their job. In this case, in Humphreys, the policy disagreement didn't make Humphrey not do his job. FDR just wanted to fire him because he didn't agree with the New Deal. So because this controls, they're trying to say that Lisa Cook's disagreement and voting not to lower the interest rate is just simply a policy disagreement, and that Humphreys protects her from being fired just for a policy disagreement. So her attorneys are claiming that Trump's firing her for a policy disagreement. Trump is claiming, the DOJ is claiming, no, I fired her because she broke the law. She committed a felony. That's why I fired her. So What they need to do is they need to prove the felony and then straight on till morning and fire all of them. Bring the Capitol Police in to arrest Adam Schiff and another one just got indicted today, or just got Pulte just sent them to the DOJ to be looked into. Who was it? Eric Swallow. Yeah, Eric Swallow. Swallow. He's just been referred to the DOJ for mortgage and tax fraud. I'm not going to pretend that I know enough about tax law to know whether or not it's easy to commit tax fraud. I think it probably is. I mean, you could sit there and say, I have 5 dependents and not have 5 dependents. I would assume that they look into that stuff, but there are 300 million Americans filing taxes every year, so maybe they don't have the time. But it is astounding the number of people that are now being referred to the DOJ for mortgage fraud. I want every single member of Congress, every single state legislature, I want the DOJ to investigate all of them now. There's too many. I don't care if you're white, black, Asian, lesbian, gay, straight. I don't care if you pray to God, Allah. I don't care if you have an R or a D next to your name. Every single fucking one of them needs to be investigated because way too many of them are doing it. The system was designed so that damn near anything any citizen does is some sort of felony. I disagree. Okay, there's not a single person out there, in my opinion, that goes and commits a felony and believes they aren't doing something wrong. We could sit there and let's remove like gun stuff and I'm trying to think about food. Let's remove that kind of stuff because I think collecting rainwater is a felony. Look, I don't know about that stuff. I don't understand why it's a felony. I assume it has something to do, or why it's illegal. I assume it has something to do with an idea that if you don't let it back into the ground, then the cycle is broken. I don't know. That's not my area. But if you walk outside your door tomorrow and you accidentally commit a felony, I'll give you $100. Nobody accidentally commits a felony. And I'll wait to see what Sean says to that. Let's see. Lean back says everyone knows there's clear language in the tax law that says you can't be banking Chinese. Unknowingly, I'll give you unknowingly. I will give you unknowingly. But even then, I find that kind of hard. Sean, I need an example. Man, because I just don't really think that. I don't think normal life and normal stuff is as beaten down as some people say. I just don't think. But I do live in a good state. Now, I agree that things like, places in California, that stuff that I take for granted here in South Carolina probably are illegal or unwanted in the state of California and New York. So absolutely there with you on that. But I just don't think that something that you do during your normal day but ends up really being a felony anywhere other than the 2 shitholes that, we don't want to live in. And Sean, you don't have to give me an example for you. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But just something that you're thinking about. Hey, do y'all think AOC is going to sue me for this? Y'all saw Fetterman fell and got hurt this morning, I guess. I guess going against AOC has consequences. You think I'm going to get in trouble for that? That'd be kind of funny. See, I was a Rubio guy in 16. And that seems to be working out pretty well. What's up, Wasp? How you doing? How's my favorite South Carolinian? Is AOC the new Hillary Clinton? No, she doesn't have enough bodies on her. In both ways. And Sean, I'd love to continue this conversation, man. Shoot me a DM. I'm curious about what kind of stuff you're talking about. Like I said, I'm going to stick away from like the gun and food stuff because I agree that the ATF has made gun stuff retarded. Canada announces a $1.7 billion plan to recruit top H1B visa holders from the United States. You know what? You can have them. You can have all of them. We'll send you all our gas station attendants. You can have every single one of them. That La Quinta Inn, you can have all of their staff. You can have them all. We already talked about that. Oh, okay. So I did talk about the ways to lower the housing costs. I mentioned there were three things. The third one, I don't think I talked about. The third one is making the Vantage Score 4.0 the go-to thing for credit score. So while I agree that credit score is kind of bullshit for the most part, I think it's one of those things that like the road to hell was paved with good intentions. Like I understand that there was probably a decent idea behind it, but I think they put way too much emphasis on a bunch of other. I'll tell y'all right now, they tell me that it's bad that I only have, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 something accounts open. They say I need to have 20 to help my credit score. How does taking on 20 accounts of debt help me? That's the thing that bugs the shit out of me. But the Vantage Score 4.0, one of the things that would help a lot with is letting our rent payments increase our credit scores. The 4.0 score looks at how consistently you pay rent. On top of the other thing, I suggest everyone that lives in an apartment do this. There are I guess there are lenders. There are lenders out there that let you split your rent. I do this because it helps my credit score. So I pay the majority of my rent in the first 5 days of the month, and I get a loan that pays the full rent. I pay the lender that amount, and they charge me $6 a month to split my rent. And it helps your credit score. And I've actually seen it help. It's not one of those things that says it helps and then it doesn't. No, this can't be true. What Wasp? I said this earlier. I said in my video earlier today. I like the idea. I think it's a net positive, but in order to in order for it to be a good thing, you need to be a smart buyer. If you take out a 50-year mortgage and just sit there and pay the minimums, it's a stupid idea. If you go in knowing that you're going to have a lower payment, so you start attacking the principal, it's a very smart thing. Like, honestly, if it's available in February when I go to buy a house, I'm going to get it because I'll get a lower payment. I can start throwing extra money at the principal, build up my equity quicker, get rid of that PMI, and then reinvest that into a new house probably a lot sooner than I expected to. So it can be a good thing. It lowers that barrier to entry. There's a lot of good with it. But if you're just going to sit there and pay the minimum over 50 years, you're an idiot. Those are my thoughts. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So I just saw something on Twitter. Okay, so this is not legal related. So apologize. So Netflix is reviving Bill Cosby's hit 80s series with OG actors to return. This is an article by Screen Rant. We all know how dumb Screen Rant is. So here's the problem. First off, everyone here sat there and thought, oh my God, they were doing a new Bill Cosby show? There's going to be a new Dr. Huxtable? Right? We all thought that, right? It's actually a different world they're reviving. Bill Cosby created a different world and appeared on it to spin off of it as Dr. Huxtable on the Bill Cosby Show. Yeah. There's an intern out there at Screen Rant that really needed to up his clicks so that he would keep his job. Sorry, Valiant Renegade's talking about something legal. I got intrigued. I think that's about it I have, unless anyone has anything else they want to talk about. I did see. I think Mark Reale said something about Cruz. Yeah, that lawsuit thing. I mean, that is retarded at best. I don't understand why they tried to put that in there. And what's annoying is, so hey, who are the senators on that list? Are they all Republicans? Yes, you can get Social Security benefits. As long as you're an American citizen, you can get Social Security benefits no matter where you live. You have to, I think I'm right about this. You have to have an active American bank account, I think, in order for them to deposit them. I don't think they'll deposit Social Security into, like, if you're in Britain, I don't think they'll deposit it into a British bank, but you can always transfer them. I think I'm right about that, but I do know that you can live outside of the United States and still receive Social Security benefits. All Republicans and 8 Democrats. No, those are the ones that voted for the thing. I'm talking about that voted for whose names are on the, because doesn't the CR have specific senators that are allowed to sue and get payments if they win? Yes, the Jack Smith spying case. %. It's hilarious. Just wait and see if we get an answer real quick. Sean, do you have an answer for that? I hate to put you on the spot, but I feel like you probably know who's on the list. Whether or not that aren't there only a specific list of senators that are able to sue and get I keep wanting to say reparations, but that's not what they are. If they win, it's not every single member of Congress. Damages. Thank you, Corn Boy. Damn. You would have thought that I would have remembered that. Now all I'm getting now are shit from 2024. Nope. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that the addition to that to the CR that allows for the damages in the suits in general are only for like 8 or 9 senators. And I believe they're all Republican. So the thing that annoys me is, how was that added? Like, they went into a room, they had to make a deal, which means the Republicans had to give them something. Obviously, what they gave them was the people get hired back that were fired in the last 40 days, and we'll have a vote on Obamacare. Those are the 2 things they got. But what you're telling me now is that Republican senators went in there and said, let's also add this for us. That's what pisses me off the most. That they didn't need to add that because it doesn't balance the scale for the Democrats. It only balances the scale for Republicans, and yet they went in there and they didn't need to add it, and they added it anyway. That's what pisses me off about it. Now, I still think they ought to sue. If Jack Smith illegally monitored Ted Cruz, a sitting United States senator, Ted Cruz should sue him. He should sue the DOJ. But he should not take payment out of the taxpayer coffers. His lawsuits should not be funded by the taxpayer. That's what pisses me off. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Blue collar is the way to go. Get a mortgage. Pay it off quicker than it needs to be paid off. And do what God says. Cruz is not actually on the list in legislation. Okay. I know Lindsey Graham is. And Lindsey Graham should not be taking my taxpayer funds to start a lawsuit and then get paid out for a lawsuit. Well, guys, that's going to be it. Hoping to play some Arc Raiders with X-Wing over on King's Advisors later tonight. Hope to see y'all there. Again, everyone, thank y'all so much for watching. Thanks for the chat. Seriously, one of my more fun things I do every week. And I hope y'all are enjoying the videos. I've got one more coming out tomorrow, and then I'm going to spend some time Saturday recording some new videos. I'm trying to be more consistent. Wow, X-Wing. Hang on. Hang on one second, guys. He's playing Fortnite. Okay, well, more videos come out next week. I'm going to try to be a lot more consistent with them. The last couple months, I haven't been nearly as consistent as I wish I had, which honestly, I'd probably be monetized by now if I had, but that's part of life. You know, the real world takes priority or takes precedent. So, c'est la vie. Y'all have a great night, and I'll see y'all next time.